Hey friends, this is Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. Do you remember that great deal I got on all the turnips and beets and potatoes? This is my big canning pot and it is full to overflowing. But last night, I peeled and blanched 15 pounds of turnips, and I parboiled and peeled 15 pounds of beets. So today we're going to can them. So I'm going to take you along on that process. Alrighty, we'll be back in a minute. Alrighty folks, I have my 14 1-liter jars washed, and I've scoured them with hot water and baking soda. Here is our 15 pounds, or what was 15 pounds before I peeled them, of diced turnips. Now these have been cooked for 5 minutes in boiling water, because you have to do that with turnips. And I have reserved the liquid for canning them in. Our lids are boiling. We have our pressure canner with the recommended amount of liquid in the bottom, and I also have my gasket for my lid in the bottom because it works better when it's been heated up. And of course, my rings, my salt, my funnel, my spoon. Now, I'm going to have a problem finding a place to put this camera. I will be right back when I figure that out. Okay, I hope you all can see this. We have a jar, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill our jar up to 1 inch from the top, and then we're going to add a teaspoon of salt, because these are 1-liter jars. You can use a little bit less salt if you like, if you're on a salt reduced diet, but make sure you use kosher salt or pickling salt, not iodized salt. There we go, 1 inch from the top. We're going to add our salt. Put a half a teaspoon there. And I have to get my ladle. I'll be right back. Alright, now we're going to fill the jar up to 1 inch from the top with the liquid. Now it's really important, folks, that it's really important that you get your air bubbles out, and that if they recommend that you blanch them. Now I was always afraid that if I cooked the vegetables, they would go mushy in the jar when they were canned, but they don't. The blanching is what seals them in. If they will go mushy if you don't blanch them. And they'll get all kinds of starch. It fixes the starch in the vegetables that they recommend that you blanch. Now, we're making sure there are no air bubbles in there. Always wipe the rim of your jar. So we've debubbled. We're going to put a hot lid on, and we're going to put our screw bands on. And this is going to go in the canner, and when I have the canner full, I'll be right back. Alrighty, there's 7 1-liter jars of turnip in the canner, and this is all I had left over. It's about 1.5 cups, so that worked out well. I've got the recommended amount of fluid in here, plus a little bit of cider vinegar or any kind of vinegar that will help stop the jars from clouding up. Now I'm going to put the lid on this, and we'll be right back. Alright, I don't know how well you can see that. It's venting a steady stream, and we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and when that's done venting, we will put the pressure gauge on. Alright, we're back, and this has vented for 10 minutes, and my handy dandy little timer went off. And so once this begins to jiggle vigorously, we will turn it down to a little over medium, and we will start timing from the moment it starts to jiggle vigorously, and we are going to press this at 10 pounds pressure for 35 minutes. Alright, we'll be back when we're done. Okay, our gauge has been rocking now for 35 minutes. So we're going to turn this off and let it depressurize And then we're going to take these out, and then we're going to go ahead and can our beets. They are, folks, getting ready to come out of the canner. I'll be back when I have them in their box. There we go, folks. 15 pounds or 14, so roughly 2 pounds per jar, pretty much. 2 pounds of turnip per jar. That's before peeling, so that's, finished turnip, not finished turnip, but whatever. Anyway, the water is a little cloudy, and that is because I used the water that I cooked the turnips in. If you had used boiling water from the kettle, it wouldn't be cloudy. All right, let's get on to the beets. Okay, folks, we pretty much got the same setup here. We have our boiled lids, only this time instead of using the turnip water, we're using water from the kettle. And these are pretty much 15 pounds of beets. And we're going to go ahead and start jarring these up. Now these I parboiled, which means I put them in a big canning pot whole with the skins on. They do not want to go down in this funnel. I put them in the pot. They were cleaned and put in the pot with cold water and brought to a boil and turned down to simmer for 15 minutes. Then they were drained and rinsed in cold water and then dunked in cold water to have, so we could cut the ends and slip the skins off. God, that's a hard one. Say that one 10 times real fast. Slip the skins off. There we go. So now we're going to, then once the skins were off, and my pigs are very appreciative of all the turnip and beet stuff, we cut them up and I put them in the fridge overnight. Now these are not pickled beets, obviously, folks. You don't see me putting any sugar or vinegar or anything in this. The important thing is to make sure, I can't resist, is beets have to be partially cooked first with the peels on. If you try to peel them and then cook them or even can them, the beet juice would bleed right into the water and you'd have horrendously washed out looking beets. There we go. And one jar into the canner. I'm not a huge fan of pickled beets. I don't mind them, but I don't see the point in pickling them when you can have these wonderful things heated up with a little bit of butter, some salt and pepper. God, I could just eat beets for a meal. I could just eat a big plate of beets. I wonder what vitamin I'm lacking for me to want to eat these beets without any salt or anything on them. Anyway, we'll be back when the canner's full. The canner's full of beets, and we still have this many left, and I think it's because they're cut up bigger than the turnips were. But I still have 10 pounds of turnips and 10 pounds of beets to do, and 5 pounds of carrots to peel, blanch, and cut up and dehydrate. So I'm going to be pretty busy. But anyway, we'll be back. We're going to do the same procedure we did with the turnips. We're going to put the lid on. We're going to allow it to vent a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes. Then we will put the pressure gauge on. We're going to process these at 10 pounds pressure for 35 minutes. Okay? And we'll be back when these come out of the canner. There are our beets, folks, fresh out of the canner. This one, I just noticed that my lid had a dent on it and it's not sealing properly, so that will be put in the fridge for use one day this week. So we got 7 jars of turnips, 7 jars of beets, and much more to go. This is the Mrs. Wolfie saying it doesn't have to be harvest season for you to continue to stock your pantry. Deals come up all the time. Take care.